handcuff on her. Alright, she's neutralized. Let's go.
Who the fuck are you? Where are you taking us?
Home.
I bet you're wondering why I'm here. Well, let's just say I've spent the last few years trying to protect people from the likes of you. I wanted to save them. I wanted to make this world just a little bit less terrible. I bet you're wondering why I'm here. Well, let's just say I've spent the last few years trying to protect people from the likes of you. I wanted to save them. I wanted to make this world just a little bit less terrible. Well, I failed. Pretty spectacularly, too. A street full of people were murdered last night. One of my friends died screaming. I guess you could say I finally learned the lesson you, Jeff, and everyone else tried to teach me. You can't hold back evil. It doesn't stop.
I see Masky and Hoodie found you.
And I see you sent your proxies to hunt me down. It's too bad I cut their heads off before they had a chance to cry out for their master.
You've brought me the heads of my best proxies, Toby. Give me a reason as to why I shouldn't kill you where you stand.
Because I realized what you were trying to do. Because you came for me in that asylum when nobody else in the world gave a fuck. And you need me.
You were always my favorite, Toby Rogers. But I'll never forget the moment you turned your back on me.
Then give me a chance to prove myself. Let me win back your trust.
Very well. Being that you've murdered Masky and Hoodie, I am in need of 2 new proxies to fill their places in the ranks. Find Kate Mylans and Lauren Hayes. Bring them to me.
What if Needles and Smiles, Hands of the Wicked, happened? This is What If. The Jeff Keaton saga is a classic YouTube series that many people who remember watching Mr. Betty Krueger would have grown up on from 2014 all the way to 2017. This series would birth a whole new version of the Jeff the Killer character and would start off with a retelling of the classic creepypasta. In 2019, the next and final installment would be announced, and it would be a sequel to the last audio drama, The Wrath of Jeffrey Keaton. In 2020, however, production on the audio drama seemed to stop completely, and instead we got Needles and Smiles The Lost Tapes, which was a live-action Jeff Keaton series that also got halted, and was also the replacement for a Jeffrey Keaton film that was in production, but I'll talk about that in another video. In 2022, Mr. Betty Krueger deleted all of his creepypasta videos, including the audio dramas, shredding any hope of getting this live-action film and Needles and Smiles, Hands of the Wicked completely. But what if events went differently? What if Needles and Smiles, Hands of the Wicked was never cancelled and actually came out? Keep in mind that this isn't going to be a full-length audio drama. It's just going to be me reading my take on how the story would have gone. And keep in mind that some story beats might be left out to make room for the main focus. And I hope you all enjoy. This is my take on Needles and Smiles, Hands of the Wicked. This is What If. We start our story off with a flashback to 10 years ago. A car drove down a dark road, Two young teenagers were chatting as the rain poured. It was Toby Rogers and his older sister Lyra. The two laughed and joked as they drove. Suddenly, Toby thought that he could see a tall figure in the distance, but he brushed it off. The two drove for a few more miles when all of a sudden Lyra swerved as she suddenly saw a figure right in front of her. All of a sudden, there was a crash as Lyra's car collided with another. We cut to the present day as we got a recap of the Wrath of Jeffrey Keaton's ending. Toby had gone back to Slender Man where he told his former master that a town filled with people were murdered and one of his friends had died screaming. He told the faceless man that he, Jeff, and everyone else was right all along, that evil never stopped, and that murder could be a necessary evil, before presenting the head of Slender Man's former proxies, Mosky and Hoodie. Slender Man asked why he shouldn't kill Toby, and Toby told the tall man that he was the only one who broke him out of Ferguson's asylum when nobody else did, and he needed him. Slender Man gave in and ordered Toby to find Kate Miller and Lauren Hayes, as he needed two new proxies to fill in the ranks of Muskie and Hoodie. Meanwhile, Jane Keaton and Dr. Inkling were trapped in their cells of the SCP Foundation. They just sat there pondering on what to do, then Dr. Inkling spoke up, asking Jane if she was okay. Jane just said, "No, I'm not." Dr. Inkling placed a hand on Jane's shoulder and asked what was wrong. Then Jane broke down. "What do you think?" she asked, frustrated. "Our whole lives are defined by dark forces. First Jeff, then this Kandarian magic bullshit, and now we're trapped in a containment facility." Jane sat back down in her seat and groaned as she placed her head in her hands. Dr. England patted her knee and comforted her. "We'll get out of here, Jane. I promise." Meanwhile, Black had woken up in a cell, half naked and filled with bite marks. The zombies had been eating him alive. Now Black was infected and had become zombified. He had no memories of the events that had occurred. He couldn't speak. All he could do was moan and groan. He had lost all sense of life. Suddenly, a voice said beside him, "Well, well, well, if it isn't little Jackie. I must say, you're looking a little worse for wear. What's eating you?" The voice suddenly giggled. It was Jeff. He had returned to his human form since stepping into the healing pool that Jack Keaton had shown him. He had almost returned to human form, yet he still had his pale skin, black hair, and bloodied Cheshire smile. Suddenly, two scientists entered the cell and grabbed Jeff and the zombified Jack. Surprisingly, Jeff didn't fight back. He was biding his time. He just cracked a joke and laughed. "Where are you taking us? Hopefully a spa?" He then giggled at his joke. Dr. England and Jane Keaton were placed in seats in the laboratory where they were strapped down. "What are you going to do to us?" Jane commanded. The scientist only grunted and pulled out a syringe. One of them jabbed it into Jane's arm and withdrew a sample of her blood. Jane winked at the needle as the needle pierced her flesh. The scientist withdrew the needle and held it in front of Jane's face. "This will be examined and used for testing," he told her before turning away. "You can't do this to us," Dr. England shouted. The scientist only chuckled and spoke into a walkie-talkie. "Send Warden Pike. He wants a chat with our guests." Dr. England and Jane stared at each other in disbelief. What does this Warden Pike want with us? Jane whispered. Dr. England only shrugged. Then all of a sudden, the automatic double doors opened and in entered a burly man who was bald with a dark tan. Well, if it isn't Jane Keaton and Principal England. The man smirked. Dr. England rolled his eyes. It's Doctor, he corrected. But this only made the warden chuckle. What do you want with us? Jane demanded. The warden cleared his throat and spoke. As I've said, you've been involved with a few instances of necromantic and Kangarian magic, demons, zombies, and voodoo priestesses. We want to keep you in captivity to ensure the safety of our town. Jane was about to say something when she heard an all too familiar voice say, "Well, if it isn't little JJ. My, we do keep running into one another somehow, don't we?" Jane saw Jeff smirking at her. "How do you keep surviving and finding us?" she groaned. Jeff chuckled and responded with a sigh. "Have you not learned anything from our last encounter?" "I once again repeat, evil never dies, Jane interrupted. "We know." Warden Pike cleared his throat and spoke up. "Anyway, you and the good doctor have been up to no good. I take it you know these two?" He pointed to Jeff and the zombified Zack. "Wait, Zack is alive?" Dr. England questioned. The warden sighed heavily and shook his head. "Yeah," he replied. "But when we found him, he was completely mutilated. Luckily, we pulled him out before the zombies could eat him whole. Unfortunately, he has become completely mindless. We will be running some tests on him as we have found some kind of symbol on his wrist. We don't know what it means, but we'll find out." Jane was about to say something when Jeff spoke up. "I know what they mean. Everyone can't fake the killer." "What does the symbol mean then?" asked Dr. England. Jeff cleared his throat and spoke again. "I've seen that symbol before while working for Golgo. Dr. Reverend Ferguson had it when Golgo gave him his magical powers, and I had it while I was the Angel of Sleep. But when Golgo was defeated and I was killed," he put the word killed in quotations, "the symbol had disappeared. I guess it reappeared when you and the doc gained the Kangarian magic." Jane and the doctor stared at one another, then back at Jeff. "How do you know that?" Dr. England asked. "Being the Angel of Sleep means you get to know all the ropes of Kangarian and dark forces," Jeff concluded. Suddenly, the group of scientists guided Jeff, Jane, and Dr. England on their feet and took them out of the laboratory. "Where are you taking us?" Jane demanded. Warden Pike smirked. "We're going to put you back in your cell for now." He turned to the other scientist and pointed at Zack. "Continue running tests on this one," he commanded. Jeff, Jane, and Dr. England were guided through the white hallway. "How are we going to get out of here?" Jane whispered. Dr. England was about to say something when they heard a pained cry and a body collapsed. The two scientists holding Dr. England and Jane released their grip and turned to the attack. Dr. England and Jane could see that Jeff had killed the scientist that had held him, and now he killed the other two. Jane was about to reprimand her brother. but Dr. England grabbed her arm and they started running. "Come on, Jane! We need to get out of here!" Jeff laughed and said to himself, "Oh, how I've missed this!" And he ran after the doctor and his sister. Meanwhile, Toby Rogers wandered through the forest and thought. Slender Man had given him the order to track down Kate Millens and Lauren Hayes. He'd had to knock out Lauren and drag her to his master. Now all he had to do was track down Kate. He approached a house where he saw a woman with black hair and wearing a white hoodie. For a moment, he thought that it was Jeff or Jane. Toby knelt down behind a bush and watched as Kate was talking to a woman with long hair that was a kind of brown and blonde colour. Kate Millen sat at a round white table with her friend Jennifer, both drinking cups of tea. "Have you heard from your friend Lauren?" Jennifer asked, after taking a sip of her hot drink. Jennifer Doris was now 20 years old. She and her brother Brad had made a life for themselves since they'd narrowly escaped from Jeffrey Keaton. And she'd met Kate soon after, who'd helped her, and they'd been friends ever since. Kate sighed and drank her tea before responding with, "No. The police came to me and informed me that she'd gone missing. I just hope she's doing okay." Meanwhile, behind the bushes, Toby overheard this and felt slightly guilty, but then he thought to himself that Kate would be seeing her friend soon. He moved from the bush, but stepped on a twig, which made the women turn in surprise. "What was that?" Kate exclaimed in surprise. A chill went down Jennifer's spine, and she wondered if it was the infamous Jeff the Killer. She'd heard a few years ago of sightings of the mass murderer. She slowly got up and gestured for Kate to going inside. Brad had suggested for his sister to buy her own bat after she'd asked to borrow his bat named Lucille. Toby hesitated, but then he crept up from behind the bush while Kate wasn't looking. Just as he'd gotten close enough to the young woman, Kate turned around, but Toby knocked her out with the butt of his hatchet. Then he dragged her away. Jennifer came out from the house, but gasped when she saw that Kate was gone. She called out for the young woman, but her friend was nowhere in sight. She nearly had a panic attack when a thought came to her mind. What if Jeff took her? She thought to herself. Jennifer pulled her phone out from her jeans pocket and dialed Brad's number. "Jen, what's up?" Brad's voice came from the other end. Jennifer sighed with relief and spoke. "Brad, Kate is gone. I don't know what happened to her, but remember those news reports of the Jeffrey Keaton sightings? What if he came back and Brad interrupted his sister's tirade by telling her to calm down and said calmly, "Jennifer, no way is Jeff the Killer back. Maybe Kate got a call from a friend and had to go to them." "But what about Lauren?" Kate protested. "First she's gone missing and now Kate, what is going on?" She moaned and started to hyperventilate, but Brad once again told her sister to calm down and he'd meet her there. Jennifer thanked her brother and told him that she loved him before hanging up. She took a seat on one of the chairs and buried her head in her hands. Kate woke up in the forest, her hands tied behind her back. She saw a man in a red suit and a man with a greyish-brown hoodie with a blue hood. Her kidnapper. "Where am I?" she demanded fearfully. "What do you want with me?" "Don't be scared," Toby told her coldly. "My master wants you." Kate was about to say something, when suddenly a tall man in a suit teleported in front of her. Kate slowly looked up to see that the figure had a blank face. It was pale with no hair. Kate, my child, the voice whispered as it pointed at her. The figure turned to Toby and said in a cold whisper, "Good job, Toby. Now you will go and cause chaos in the town." "Yes, Master," said Toby in a cold tone before walking off. Kate looked up at the tall man in terror, and it hit her who he was. You're the Slender Man!" she exclaimed loudly. The Slender Man chuckled and spoke in a tone which sounded like charisma, but was cold and stern. "I have plans for you, child. Join me." The Slender Man reached out a bony hand and rested it on Kate's head. "I want to show you something beautiful." Suddenly, Kate's vision was filled with static as she saw visions of herself holding the Slender Man's hand, then visions of Jennifer and Brad trying to kill her. Then she heard a voice say, "Join me. Your friends will turn on you. Join me, and I will show you the way. You won't be alone as long as I'm here." Kate's vision went back to Slender Man and his surroundings, and she was now convinced that Slender Man was her one true friend. Man in the red suit untied her, and the young woman stood up before looking up at her new master. Lauren came towards her and gave her friend a mask, which had two rounded black eyes and a round black mouth. Kate put on the mask, and Slender Man said, "Now you can join my cause. We have much work to do." "No, please, stop!" a woman cried before Toby slammed his hatchet into her neck. Blood spat onto his face mask, and he looked down at her corpse. He sighed with annoyance and muttered to himself, "Why do they always scream?" before he continued to walk down the dark street. Toby walked until he reached an old home, his childhood home. He climbed through a window and found himself in his childhood bedroom. Memories flooded back of his father abusing him, Lyra, and their mother. When the thought of his sister came, Toby's eyes welled with tears, and he took off his face mask and goggles. Toby took off his hoodie and got into his childhood bed. He needed to rest. He closed his eyes and started to drift off, when suddenly he heard a voice, a small female voice calling his name. "Toby?" Toby bolted up and saw a familiar, tall, pale blonde girl smiling warmly at him. His sister. "Lyra?" The apparition of his sister laughed and said, "Toby, I've missed you." Toby got out of bed and approached his sister. He felt tears prick his eyes. "Lyra, I thought you were dead," he exclaimed. His sister chuckled and responded with, "It's okay, Toby. I'm here." Toby broke down and hugged his sister. "I'm sorry, Lyra. I got you killed. I'm so sorry." The apparition hugged Toby back and consoled him. "It's okay. It's okay. I'm here now." Toby pulled back from his sister and looked into her kind eyes. "Lyra, I'm so glad you're okay. I thought you were dead." Lyra sighed and responded with, "None of that matters now. I just have one question." Toby was surprised but said, "Sure, hit me with it." The next few words made Toby's stomach drop. Why did you let me die? Toby suddenly got a chill down his spine before he asked, What? Why did you get me killed? Lyra corrected. You also abandoned your friends. Why? Toby began to hyperventilate. Then suddenly Lyra's eyes became black, and she began to shout, Why did you leave them? Suddenly, Toby felt a ringing in his ears, and he placed his hands over them, pressing tightly against them. Toby fell to his knees and cried out as the ringing got louder. The voice of his sister kept shouting, You abandoned them! You abandoned me! Why did you leave me? Toby suddenly bolted awake and screamed aloud. He surveyed his surroundings and was panting and sweating. He sighed with relief and closed his eyes. Toby got out of bed and placed his hoodie back on. He placed on his goggles and face mask and climbed back out of the window after grabbing his hatchet. He needed to clear his head. Meanwhile, in the dark streets of Spokane, Jane and Dr. England were walking down the street and thinking about what to do next. We need to find Toby, Jane told the doctor. Dr. England shook his head and sighed. What we need to do is head back to my house and rest. We can find Toby in the morning, he told the young woman. Suddenly they had a cry coming from the alleyway next to them, and saw a young woman with dark blonde hair being attacked by a mugger. What do you want from me? She demanded. The man pointed a gun at her and demanded the young woman to hand over her purse. The young woman was about to cry for help when all of a sudden she saw the tip of a machete burst through the mugger's chest and blood spurted onto her face, and the mugger's body collapsed to the ground. The young woman looked up to see a young pale woman with a black jacket and long black hair who helped her up onto her feet. Are you okay? The woman's savior asked. Yeah, thanks. You didn't have to kill him though. The young woman held out her hand and introduced herself as Jennifer Dorif. Her savior shook Jennifer's hand and responded with, I'm Jane Keaton. Jennifer's face fell. Keaton? As in Jeffrey Keaton? Suddenly, Jane revealed that she was Jeff's sister, but she was nothing like him. She then told Jennifer about the time she'd entered the Mad Keaton's life, and Jennifer relaxed, knowing that she could trust Jane. She then noticed the old man standing behind Jane, who introduced himself as Dr. Robert England, and Jennifer revealed that she too had an encounter with Jeff, but that she and her brother defeated him. Or so they thought. She then asked the two if they saw her brother, and Jane and Dr. England offered to help look for him. Meanwhile, Jeff Keaton wandered through the forest, wearing a new white hoodie that he'd stolen from a young man that he'd killed. Jeff didn't know what his next move was. He needed to stray away from world-conquering beings that wanted to use him as a tool for Armageddon. He just wanted to be an independent killer. Jeff couldn't help but think what would have happened if he and his sister had had a good relationship. After losing David, and now his great-grandfather, Eyeless Jack Keaton the Ripper, Jane was the only family he had left. He even felt a bit guilty for his past actions. Jeff came across a familiar building. It was the old run-down Ferguson's Asylum. It seemed like construction workers had tried to rebuild it. Jeff entered the old building and walked through the halls of the old place. He remembered when he was incarcerated, when he met Toby. Jeff felt a pang of guilt. Toby had been his only friend, and he turned his back on him. So many memories, Jeff muttered. Damn. If I wasn't tortured nearly to my death, I would have considered this place my second home. Suddenly, Jeff heard a voice behind him call his name, a soft, tentative female voice. Jeff turned around to see the ghostly form of Nurse Rachel, her long brown hair, her blue eyes, and her nurse's outfit. Rachel? Jeff questioned. The young woman smiled warmly, and it suddenly made Jeff get a lump in his throat. Nurse Rachel asked how Jeff was, and he couldn't find the words. The ghostly nurse told Jeff that she could sense that he was feeling guilt and regret, and Jeff decided to reveal everything that had happened since he'd escaped from Ferguson's. Nurse Rachel listened intently, and when Jeff was finished, she asked him if he wanted to have a second chance to do good. Jeff revealed that he didn't know, and that he'd once enjoyed being a killer, but admitted that killing had lost its novelty, especially after the whole Zorgo and Jack Keaton shtick. Nurse Rachel chuckled and told Jeff that if he wanted to make amends, then he needed to start by finding his only friend, and the sister that he had mentioned. Jeff gave it a thought, but eventually agreed with the ghost nurse. He thanked her and turned to leave. Nurse Rachel watched as he left and muttered to herself, "Go get him, Jeffrey." Meanwhile, Jane, Dr. England, and Jennifer were hiding out in the warehouse. Jennifer had texted her brother Brad to meet her there. We can have a moment where the three of them bond over their encounters with Jeff Keaton. Jane told Jennifer about Toby and the pain Jeff had caused them both. She then revealed that Toby had mysteriously disappeared shortly after she and the doctor were captured by the SCP Foundation. Suddenly, there was a knock on the front door, and all three of our heroes stood up and prepared for a battle, until they heard the muffled voice of a young man behind the door say, "Hello, Jennifer? I'm here." Jennifer sighed with relief and stepped forward to open the door, and Jane and Dr. England could see a young, skinny man with short, dark hair and a striped shirt. "Brad, thank God you're okay," Jennifer exclaimed as she hugged her brother. Once they pulled away, Brad noticed Jane and Dr. England and asked who these guys were. Jennifer sat her brother down and told him everything. Brad was hesitant to trust Jane and Dr. England at first, but relented when Jennifer told her brother that Jane had saved her from a mugger. Then Dr. England told the group that he'd love for them to stay in chat, but that he and Jane really needed to find Toby. Jennifer told them that she and Brad could help them. Brad protested, saying that these guys could turn on them, but Jennifer told her brother that it was okay, and they all left the warehouse to find Jane and Dr. England's friend. Meanwhile, Toby walked through the forest when he encountered Slender Man, Lauren Hayes, Kate the Chaser, and Randall, the red-suited man who also served as Slender Man's proxy. Toby looked at his master and asked him what they should do next. Slender Man gave the order for the 4 proxies to spread fear in the town of Spokane, and said that the town needed to know of his presence, and that's exactly what they did, though Toby was a little bit hesitant. He knew that he'd made the right decision, though. He had nothing left to go back to, except for Slender Man. Jeff watched all of this from afar. He was surprised when he realized where Toby had ended up, but he was impressed that Toby had finally realized that evil would never die. Even so, he couldn't help but remember Nurse Rachel's words, and he decided to go after Toby. But he waited until the young man was alone. Toby separated from Kate, Lauren, and the red-suited proxy. He broke into a house by climbing through a downstairs window and saw a young man sleeping on a sofa. Pathetic human, he muttered, and raised his hatchet before slicing the man's head off. He was about to go into another room when he heard a familiar voice call his name. Toby? What happened while I was away? He turned to see Jeff Keaton standing at the window. Toby's blood boiled and his grip on the hatchet tightened. How? How do you keep coming to life? He asked. Jeff chuckled. Are you even surprised at this point? I'm the gift that's always giving. Shut up, Toby shouted, and he charged towards the killer. He swung his hatchet towards Jeff's face, but the killer managed to dodge, and Toby fell out of the window and grunted when he fell into the ground. Not actually feeling the pain, but felt the pressure of the landing. Jeff sighed and climbed out of the window and shook his head with pity while looking down at this young man. Toby, we need to talk, Jeff calmly told his former friend. Toby stood up. There's nothing to talk about, he growled. I have nothing to say to you. He once again charged towards Jeff and swung his hatchet around, but Jeff dodged and kicked Toby in the groin, making him lose focus and collapse. Toby, why are you back with Slender Man? The killer asked. Why do you care? Asked Toby, as he caught his breath and stood back up. Anyway, it's none of your fucking business. He was about to lunge forward, but Jeff stopped him. Listen, Toby. Slender Man is bad news. I should know. I've encountered him. Toby scoffed. As if you're any better, you're a fucking serial killer. Jeff chuckled and responded with, yeah, I'm one of a kind. But I know what it's like to be dragged by a leash of some asshole who has some grand plan to end the world. Don't make the same mistake I did and end up as a husk and a slave for some ruthless dictator. Furious, Toby kicked Jeff away and ran off. He needed to inform his master of Jeff's whereabouts. But he couldn't help but think about his words. Then again, Slender Man was always there for him. Everyone I trusted turned their backs on me. But not him, he muttered. Randall, the red-suited proxy, paced towards Slender Man with concern. Master, are you sure we can trust Toby? He asked the faceless entity. Slender Man made a small humming noise to suggest that he was in thought. We shouldn't waste time being concerned over the inevitable. Now we have bigger plans, that we may not need Toby. He responded calmly and coldly. He placed a bony hand on Randall's shoulder. I've planted beacons all over the state of Washington. It'll be enough to cleanse the whole world of its human population. Rally me some supporters that follow my path. Tell them to meet me here, he commanded before retracting his hand. Randall nodded and backed away before wandering off. Jeff was watching from afar. So many thoughts were going through his head. So Slender Man's going to make his own utopia, he muttered. Then his mind was made up. I have to find JJ. And he stomped off before anyone could see him. Meanwhile, Jane, Dr. England, Brad, and Jennifer were headed towards the forest. They all bonded by talking about all their interests. Jane was laughing when she saw a white hooded figure staring at them. Suddenly, she felt a feeling of dread in her stomach, and she called over to her friends. "Guys, look!" she whispered while pointing at the figure. Jennifer's mouth dropped. "Is that?" she started, but she trailed off when the figure started walking towards them. Now Jane, Brad, Jennifer, and Dr. England could see the now pre-zombified form of Jeff Keaton. Jane immediately drew her machete and thrust it towards Jeff. "Stay back! Why are you here?" she demanded. Jeff smiled at his sister, and to Jane's surprise, he raised his hands in surrender. "Look, I want to talk. It's about Toby," Jeff told the gang. Jane lowered her machete. "Keep talking," she commanded. Jeff sighed and continued to speak. "I know where Toby is. You're looking for him, right? He's back with Slender Man. I encountered him, and we kinda had a short scuffle." Jane, Dr. England, Brad, and Jennifer all stared at one another in disbelief, and drew their attention back to Jeff. "Why are you telling us this?" Dr. England questioned suspiciously. Jeff confessed everything to them. How he was tired of mindlessly killing people and working under the guide of somebody else's shitty plan of world domination, and how he didn't want Toby to fall under the same conditions. "I also hate Slendy and don't want him to be top dog of everything," he confessed. "Why should we believe you?" Jennifer demanded, and Brad chimed in saying, "You killed our mom, and you tried to kill us." Jeff sighed again. "Look, we all want the same thing. We want Slender Man dead and Toby to come home. Right?" He turned his attention to Brad and Jennifer. "Wouldn't you want to avenge your father's death after that faithless asshole killed him?" Jennifer raised an eyebrow. "How do you know that?" Jeff shrugged. "Me and my brother Dave were killing campers in the woods when we saw it happen. Which, come to think of it, it seems weird how we didn't just kill them ourselves." Jane sighed and lowered her machete. "Alright, we believe you," she confessed. "But I warn you, Jeffrey, if you try anything, I will bite your face off and stab you through the chest. You're not immortal anymore, it seems, and there isn't anyone left, as far as I know, who can bring you back." Jeff chuckled. "There's that Keaton spirit." He clapped his hands and rubbed them together. "Now, let's go kill us a faithless bastard." Then Jeff walked past them and turned back to the gang when he realized that they weren't following him. "Where are you going?" Brad questioned. "We need weapons to fight Slender Man and his proxies." Jeff gestured for them to follow. "I know a weapons shop we can break into and steal them." The gang was hesitant, but soon followed the bleached young man. Toby watched from the sidelines. He was infuriated that Jane was willingly doing her brother said. "That can it!" he barked before marching back into the forest. He had considered going to find Jane and leave Slender Man for good, but seeing her with her brother, who he noticed looked just like how he did back when they were in Ferguson's asylum, made his blood boil with rage. Toby sauntered through the forest until he reached his master. He saw several other people there, wearing clothing that had Slender Man's iconic symbol on their sleeve. "Master, who are these people?" the young man questioned. Slender Man tilted his head and spoke. "These are my other followers, Toby. They will assist in the newfound cleansing of this pathetic world." Toby could see Kate and Randall, as well as Lauren, standing side by side in the middle of Slender Man's followers. Then he remembered what he had to tell Slender Man. Master, Jeff is back, and he's with Jane, Dr. England, and some other kids. They're all going to try and kill you. Slender Man chuckled. Fear not, child, for it's too late to stop anything now. The hour of the world's cleansing will soon be upon us. Meanwhile, Jane, Jeff, Dr. England, and the Dora siblings marched out of the weapons shop, now with guns, grenades, and machetes. The shop's alarm was going off. Did we really have to break into the shop? Brad moaned. He had to use his bat Lucille to break the window for all of them to climb through. Jeff rolled his eyes. Quit your whining, Bradley. It'll be worth it when we've put that suit-wearing, faceless motherfucker to sleep for good. Dr. England was uneasy. He couldn't believe he'd just broken into a shop. We have to hurry before we're seen, he exclaimed, and they all went behind an alleyway. Jennifer, can I talk to you? Jane asked, tentatively. Jennifer turned to her brother, who nodded, and then responded with a quiet, sure, before the two went further into the alley. What's up? Jennifer asked. Jane sighed and started to speak. Listen, about your guy's mother dying, I'm really sorry. And for your father, too. Jane looked down uneasily. Jennifer took Jane's hand and responded with, hey, it's okay. I'm over it now. Jane looked up at the young woman and sighed. I guess I just wanted to let her know how you feel. She told Jennifer, I lost Mom a few years ago, and I have no idea where Dad is. He probably died back when Jeff unleashed both Ferguson and me. Jennifer grimaced. I guess we've both lost something. Then she rested her hand on Jane's shoulder and said, but I think we've gained something too. Suddenly they heard someone's throat being cleared, and Dr. England's voice say, I'm sorry to interrupt this moment, but we need to find Slender Man and Toby before they do something awful. Jane and Jennifer both blushed, feeling embarrassed. Right, sorry, Jane chuckled. Jeff rolled his eyes and muttered, get a room, you two. The five heroes, one by one, marched out of the alleyway and headed in the direction of the forest. But when they got there, to their surprise, there was no sign of Slender Man and his proxies. What is the meaning of this, Jeff? Dr. England demanded. Jeff was just confused and responded with, I don't know. He surveyed the surroundings of the forest and saw a clearing where there was a fielded area. The five of them could see figures in the distance. Jeff slowly approached the clearing, clutching his rifle, and peered through the trees. There they are, he whispered. He turned to the gang and gestured for them to follow him. Each of them climbed through the trees until they were in the field. Jane could see Slender Man, Toby, a red-suited man with a beard and a mustache, and several other figures surrounding the tall, faceless entity, including two masked women, one wearing a grey jacket and the other wearing a white hoodie. Slender Man stared at the white pedestal, which had a glowing glass ball resting upon it. The time is near, Slender Man muttered. Master, what's gonna happen once the mission is complete? Toby questioned. He knew that if somebody was useless to his master, he would immediately dispose of them. Slender Man turned to his second-in-command and rested a hand on his shoulder. Fear not, child. You'll be right by my side. Toby nodded with understanding. Then suddenly, Kate spoke up. Master, look! Intruders! Slender Man looked up to see Jeff and Jane Keaton, an old man, and two people who appeared to be in their 20s, marching up to the proxies and all holding weapons. "What should we do, Master?" Toby questioned. Slender Man tilted his head and pointed to the intruders before shouting, "Attack!" All the proxies charged towards our heroes and gave a battle cry. "Open fire!" Jane screamed, and she, Jeff, and Dr. England and the Goyle siblings all started firing at the proxies. Some of them were shot dead while others tackled our heroes. Jane was tackled by Kate and started to choke her, but Jane managed to punch the proxy, making her fall back, and shot at her. Meanwhile, Dr. England and Jeff were shooting at all of the proxies. Jennifer and Brad didn't know what to do. Jennifer went for a proxy wearing a face mask and goggles, which had the circle and X symbol on the lenses. She tackled the person, who then slashed at her abdomen, making her cry out. The masked proxy pulled out a gun and was about to shoot Jennifer when there was another gunshot. The masked individual had been shot in the stomach. Jennifer thanked me that her savior was Brad. Jennifer got up and ran over to him, hugging him and telling him, "Thank you," when they pulled away. Brad told his sister that he would always be there for her, but his sentence was cut off by another gunshot. Jennifer looked down to see that her brother's neck was bleeding. He then collapsed, and Jennifer could see his life leaving his eyes. "Oh, Brad!" Jennifer shouted. She crouched down and scooped her brother up in her arms. "No, no, no, please don't go!" Jennifer protested. Brad coughed and smiled one last time before saying, "Mom would be proud. And Dad," before he finally faded away. Jennifer started crying and looked up to see who had shot her brother. It was the same proxy that had been shot in the stomach. Jennifer grabbed her brother's gun and angrily shot at the proxy, screaming in agony until the shooter finally collapsed. Meanwhile, Jane and Dr. England were shooting some of the proxies when suddenly Jane was tackled by a figure with a face mask and goggles. She opened her eyes to see that her attacker was none other than the person she'd been looking for. "Toby, why are you doing this?" Jane questioned frantically. She managed to kick Toby off of her body and stand on her feet. Toby got up and grabbed his hatchet. "You did this to me!" he screamed before charging towards his former companion. He swung his hatchet towards her face, but Jane managed to dodge just in time and kicked Toby in the stomach. "I never wanted to hurt you," Jane protested, grabbing her machete and readying it for a battle. Toby scoffed. "Then why did you hide that you kept Jeff's hoodie? Why are you even with Jeff?" he demanded. Jane didn't know what to think. She felt guilty, but had no time to do anything but survive this war. She ran towards Toby, but he grabbed her and tackled her to the ground, punching her over and over until she was nearly unconscious. Just as Toby was about to deliver the final blow, a voice shouted, "Get away from my sister!" and pulled the young man off of Jane. Jane got up, clutching her head, and saw that Toby was being wrestled to the ground by Jeff, who was punching him over and over. Suddenly, she saw Dr. England fighting with the red-suited man and went over to help. Dr. England and Randall continued to fight, continually throwing punches, but Dr. England grabbed the man's fist, blocking the last punch, and punched the red-suited proxy in the stomach. Randall groaned and pulled out his gun. He was about to shoot the doctor when all of a sudden he was stabbed through the chest by Jane's machete. He collapsed and Dr. England looked up to see Jane. A look of relief washed over him. "Thank you," he told the young woman. You're welcome. Now let's go and destroy that beacon, Jane exclaimed. Toby and Jeff wrestled on the ground. Toby had Jeff pinned down and was choking him. Do you know what you did to me in my life? He screamed. Jeff managed to kick Toby off and stand up. Toby stood up and balled his fist. You were like a brother to me once, Jeff, he screamed angrily. None of what happened to you and me would have happened if you just joined me and the Master. Jeff was taken aback by the statement. That's what this is about, he exclaimed. Then he chuckled. Way to hold a grudge for this long. Toby angrily charged towards Jeff and screamed, Shut up! And aimed to tackle him, but Jeff dodged and stabbed his former friend on the shoulder. But he was surprised to see that Toby didn't scream or even flinch. The young man rolled on his back and chuckled. You still haven't learned. I don't feel pain, asshole. He punched Jeff in the stomach, which made the killer stumble back, and he stood up staring angrily at Jeff. Jeff charged towards Toby, ready to attack, but the young man dodged and swung his hatchet into Jeff's abdomen, making the smiling killer cry out in pain and collapse to the ground. Toby was about to slam his hatchet into Jeff's head, but before the blade could touch his forehead, Jeff grabbed the hatchet and ripped it from Toby's hand. Then he flung it away before stabbing Toby in the chest. Toby lost balance and collapsed to the ground. Jeff looked on sadly at Toby, who was now lying on the grass, breathed heavily. Look at us, Jeff. Once upon a time we got along. And now I'm bleeding out from your fucking knife. I didn't want it to come to this, Jeff confessed. Toby chuckled and started to cough as he was slowly losing breath. You know what the crazy thing is? Back in that asylum, you were the closest thing I had to a friend. The other one was a fucking ghost who visited my cell and was sedated, Jeff confessed. Toby chuckled again, then he went limp. Jeff sighed somberly and stood up. I'm sorry, Toby, he muttered to himself. Jane and Dr. England ran towards the beacon and set off a grenade before resting it underneath the pedestal. This should destroy it, Jane told the doctor before they ran in the opposite direction. They turned back to see the grenade explode, but the beacon was still intact. It didn't even move, Jane cried out with annoyance. She pulled out her gun and shot at the last of the proxies. Come on, Dr. England shouted, and he and Jane ran into the field. Jennifer and Jeff saw this and joined them, and the four of them stood back to back, ready for what was going to come next. Do you see any more proxies? Jane questioned. The four of them surveyed their surroundings. Jeff turned his head round and responded, No, I don't see any more. But wait, where's Slendy? The four of them looked round, but then they heard a demonic roar and turned around to where the sound was coming from. Suddenly, they saw what appeared to be Slender Man, but half of his face was ripped open to reveal a mouth. And he appeared to have black circles on his face where his non-existent eyes should be. And his tendrils were waving about. I guess this is the boss level, Jeff remarked. Slender Man shot his tendrils towards the group, who dodged out of the way. Dr. England grabbed his gun and shot at the monstrous form, but his tendril wrapped itself around his neck and lifted the doctor off the ground. Dr. England tried to struggle free, but dropped the gun in the process. Dr. England! Jane cried. She grabbed his gun from the ground and ran behind Slender Man and shot at his back, making Slender Man drop the doctor and his tendrils dissipate. Slender Man screamed out in pain and furiously turned around to face Jane angrily. Do you really think you're saving anyone? Slender Man roared in a demonic voice as his sword appeared in his hand out of nowhere. I am cleansing the world of its sins. I'm doing everyone a favor. Jane took off her black jacket to reveal her grey shirt and withdrew her machete before thrusting it towards Slender Man. The two blades clinked together as one tried to pierce the other. The two swords clinked together one last time, one sword trying to push the other out of the wielder's hand. Jane tried to resist her sword, but Slender Man sent it flying out of her hand and stabbed the young woman in the leg, making her scream out and kneel down in pain, clutching her knee. Any last words? Slender Man questioned in a mocking tone, but Jane shook her head no and closed her eyes, preparing for the impact of the blade. Jane! Dr. England screamed, and there was a stabbing sound. But Jane didn't feel a thing, and yet she heard the sound of metal piercing flesh. Jane Keaton opened her eyes and saw that someone had taken the hit. There was a gunshot, and Slender Man was sent flying back as the body of Dr. England collapsed. Jane stared in horror, then she screamed in anguish as she pulled the sword from the doctor's stomach and stabbed it into Slender Man's chest. The faceless entity let out a cry of pain as Jane turned the blade and shoved it further into Slender Man's wound. Suddenly, there were gunshots and Slender Man collapsed to the ground. There was a moment of silence before the fallen corpse of Slender Man exploded into a black, inky mess. Jane turned around to see Jennifer holding her gun and panting. That's for my father, you son of a bitch, she barked. Jane smiled and limped towards Jennifer. Thanks, she told the young woman. Jennifer nodded and dropped the gun. You're welcome, she replied. Suddenly, there was a coughing noise, and the two women looked downward to see Dr. England bleeding out on the grass. Jane got a lump in her throat. She knelt down and took the doctor in her arms. I'm sorry, Doc. I'm so sorry I got you killed, she cried. Dr. England coughed and smiled. It's okay, Jane. You've always been like a daughter to me, and I'd do anything to help my children. The doctor smiled one last time and slowly closed his eyes. Jane started to cry. Jeff slowly wandered over to Jane and dropped the blood-stained face mask and goggles. Jane bowed her head and cried. Jennifer stroked her back, and Jeff watched with a solemn expression. Suddenly, they heard buzzing sounds, lightning, and the three remaining heroes looked up to see the beacon glowing white, sparks of lightning spitting out from the light. It's about to destroy everything, Jane shouted. Jeff thought for a moment, then went over to Toby's dead body and picked up his hatchet. Oh, what are you doing? Jane questioned. She could see the sadness in Jeff's eyes. I'm going to be honest, JJ. I don't have that much to live for. All I want right now is to make up for all the horrible things I've done. And by doing that, I have to destroy that beacon, he told her firmly. Jeff, no. There must be another way, Jane protested. Jeff sighed. If I destroy one of them, it'll destroy all of them. Just promise me one thing. Jeff rested a hand on Jane's shoulder. Don't make the same mistakes, ladies. Don't walk the same path. Jane nodded in understanding. Jeff backed away and ran towards the beacon. Jane and Jennifer watched on, and Jeff ran towards the glowing glass ball and raised his hatchet. He then screamed, "Go to sleep!" and smashed the glass ball with the hatchet. There was a flash of white light, and suddenly, Jeff was evaporated. The pedestal and the glass ball were both cracked open, finally destroyed, and all that was left of Jeff was his white hoodie and the hatchet that his former friend had once wielded. 2 weeks later, Jane Keaton and Jennifer Dorif stared down at the graves of their fallen friends. Jane had stayed with Jennifer and she'd fixed her leg up. They had become very close friends, and Jane had confided a lot in her. You know, when my mother died, I had nothing left, and I never found my dad. When I met Toby, he became like family to me. And so did Dr. England, Jane told her new friend while they were in the cemetery. The sun rising on them, Jennifer rested her hand on her friend's shoulder. "I know you miss them," she told the black-haired woman. Jane looked down at the graves. On Jeff's grave rested his white hoodie. On Toby's grave rested the face mask and goggles. On Brad's grave rested his bat Lucille. And on Dr. England's grave rested on a Lovecraft book and a bouquet of roses. Jane sighed. Toby saw good in me. He spared me. He trusted me, and I failed him. "Jane, you can't think like that," Jennifer told her. "The war is over, Slender Man is gone, and Jeff and Toby are finally at rest. It's just a matter of time of what we do next." Jane looked at her new friend and spoke. "I might just leave. Go somewhere and stay under the radar. Soon people are gonna come for me." Jennifer grimaced and gave Jane a piece of paper. "Well, if you need me, buy yourself a phone and call me, okay?" She patted Jane's arm and walked off, leaving Jane holding the piece of paper. Jane looked at the piece of paper and stared at the graves of her fallen brother and fallen friends. She saluted for them and walked off into the sunrise. Jane turned around and thought she could see the ghosts of her fallen friends. She nodded and continued to walk off, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter. And that would be my take on The Hands of the Wicked. Tell me what you guys thought in the comments below. Give me all the feedback that you've got. I had to cut some storylines out, like the SCP Foundation and the whole thing with the markings on Zach's wrist to make way for the real plot, which was all about Slender Man in my eyes and Jeff's character development. If the whole plot with Zach and the SCP Foundation would have been kept in, it would have just been all cluttered, and it wouldn't have been a good conclusion. It wouldn't have felt like a decent conclusion. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm Harry Flicky. Remember, you're gonna have to.